am Chef Whitney Aronoff, and welcome to the Starseed Kitchen podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with Chef Erdem Simsek. Chef Erdem's philosophy is influenced by approaches of herbalism, holistic living, and Ayurvedic science. As a culinary trained chef raised in Istanbul, he was exposed to the rich multicultural of Anatolian cuisine and its ancient wisdoms towards food. After years of experience cooking in Europe and America, his journey led him to an awakening of healing power of food and water. We are taught to disconnect from our bodies and have fallen into a false dietary mindset of our well-being. What you eat impacts every area of your mental, physical, and spiritual health. Erdem's purpose is to reconnect our bodies back to our earthy roots and raise awareness towards holistic well-being. Welcome, Erdem.
Hello, hello.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me about food and healing and spirituality today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me in your podcast, and I'm super excited.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about your background in Istanbul and in the culinary world and how you ended up in LA.
So I'm born and raised in Istanbul, and if you guys see Istanbul is such a multicultural city that have lots of influence by like many countries. Is one of the oldest cities in the world. So the food is one of the main rich cultural aspect of it. We use seafood in everywhere, and every type of food is like the street food is so rich. The food that your mom cook at home is like totally different than the you have outside. So it's definitely very rich culturally. So I'm really find myself like how you say lucky to be able to grow in the city. So being in Istanbul, my mom is from Black Sea, my father is from mid Anatolian. So at home, I had to experience also these two different cultures, and Black Sea region totally is different than the mid part of the Anatolia, of course. So having this, like, as a cultural wise, also as a food wise, I was able to experience these two different cultures in my home. Sport was a very big part of my childhood until come to, college years. I play like over 10 years, I believe, like basketball. So I'm a huge fan of team sports. There's also, experience a little bit of water polo, I will say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So sport is a very big part of my past. Still like trying to, get into basketball time to time. After high school, I entered a culinary school, and honestly, it blew my mind. Like my life totally changed. I had the new understanding of food and ingredients, have a appreciation for the ingredient. Actually, it's not just like eating, but there's so many layers until the food comes to in front of you. So that's how I had the chance to experience life again, I would say. And after culinary school graduation, I took risk, to be honest with you, because my English wasn't that good. I didn't experience much out of my town, but I said I have to try this, and I found myself in Los Angeles. Basically, this city attract me somehow, and now here I am, and I found lots of similarities in LA and Istanbul, which is like the cultural diversity. LA is also a very diverse city, and there's like lots of different cultures. And I think as a chef, I'm celebrating all these diverse cultures with food, and I'm very happy to be here.
Now, your passion right now is more holistic cooking, but when you first moved to LA, you worked for a restaurant within a hotel that was much more, I think, traditional fine dining. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
So what was that like when you first started working for the Four Seasons in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills, and the style of cooking was much more formal and traditional. Were you kind of already in this place as a chef where your passion was health supportive cooking, or were you just happy to be cooking in the kitchen and learning? Where were you at that time?
I mean, honestly, at that time, I was super excited because it was a new place for me. So I was always observing and learning.
Mhm.
But at one point, I realized that there's a disconnection between me and of my guests. How I can explain this a little deeper, I think. I want the food I cook, I want it impact my guest or you know, much more than just as a just seeing a well-plated dish. I want that dish impact you as a like internally and externally, like with your health, with your understanding of food, with your appreciation to that animal that suffer and died and come into you. You know, all these others, I want like, you know, the guest to understand all these aspects, but in restaurants, basically, it's not very possible because it's mostly just we are eating to enjoy ourselves, to amuse ourselves. We are not. We are forgetting that part that food is actually is the medicine.
Yeah.
It's the healthcare. We are forgetting this, and I think it's really, really important that food is healthcare, medicine is sick care. So the restaurant we are cooking, the restaurant we are cooking is like the food we presented. It looks beautiful, it's everything, but I
Yeah.
think it lost its spirit. So I think that's the main reasons that I had to separate myself from the restaurants and find myself a new path.
Yeah. Well, you chose the right city to do it in because people really embrace food that is beautiful and food that makes them feel good, you know, and they're definitely looking for both. So, how did you transition working at a restaurant and starting to work as a private chef for clients?
So, I mean, we are running different kitchens with different cuisines, Italian, Spanish, French. But at the end of the day, I start that this is not what I want. When I start my journey after the school, basically I wanted to be chef and I gave my everything, like working 13, 14 hours a day, like not having off sometimes. Like I was okay with all of it. But at one point it started doesn't make sense anymore. Like I said that this is not my path anymore. And at that time, like about that time, COVID hit
Oh,
whole
yeah.
world and you know all the restaurants shut down in Los Angeles, but also in many cities. So I was thinking like right now there's no restaurants. So what's next? Like this is not the future for me. And I attract this business model to myself. And I started to work with a very, I will say, precious nutritionist. And I started to use her clientele first. And right now, like I have my own client profile. And, you know, working with conscious people, it's always, I think, good. It feels much better.
Yeah. Who was the nutritionist that you started working with?
Laura Rashab,
Okay.
she lives in also Los Angeles. I really don't remember how she found me or I found her. I don't know. I don't remember that part, but somehow we attract each other and we started this meal prep first during this COVID. I was doing this medicinal meals
Yes.
and sending them around Los Angeles area. Then after it just keep going and keep going
So does
toward, you
she
know,
work, yeah, does she work with clients to support any particular shifts or ailments that they're trying to let go of? Like what is her specialty and what did you support in cooking for?
So basically, our clientele is like have some sort of health problems, or some of them are like cancer patients and having heavy like chemotherapy, or like diabetics, or some sort of like gut sickness and illness. And all these people are looking for some sort of good source food,
Yeah.
high vibrational food. And I really appreciate these people. They understand from food, and they understand the meaning of what is like really good source food.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to find it outside. Like in any restaurant you go, it's really hard to find it, honestly. Either you have to cook for yourself, or you have to find someone, you or like me, that cooking this
Yeah.
kind of food.
Now, for me, my hesitation about eating out at a lot of restaurants is because I don't want my food cooked with canola oil or any processed oils. I don't want my food cooked in the type of equipment that they're cooking in, because it's usually aluminum or old Teflon, and that's chipping into my food. It's the energy of the people.
Energy
They're
of
just,
the people, yes.
yeah, they're just overworked and tired, and some of them don't even really want to be doing that. So they're, no offense to them, but their bad attitude is getting
Definitely
in my
no
food.
offense, definitely no offense, but it's true. Like the cook's energy is so important that, like, there is no inspiration anymore. There is no life. There is no spirit in that food anymore. And when you eat that food, basically you are eating that energy. Either it's animal or plant, doesn't matter. Basically, you're putting into your body like that energy and low vibrations. So you cannot expect much from that in terms of health wise.
What is it that makes you avoid eating out at a restaurant?
Basically, I know restaurants, inside and outside very well. And as you said, like oil that they're using, to be honest, no one is buying ghee because it's so like
Oh yeah.
expensive for restaurant budget,
Yeah.
trying to go like, cheaper and stuff. So oil, the utensils, the cleanliness of the place, the water that they cook with it, the water that I hope they're washing their produce, but the water that they wash their produce with it, it's so important. These are the one of the reasons that also, like, for restaurants, it's kind of hard for them to shop from farmers market,
Yeah.
weekly. And I like to use only farmers market ingredients because this, for me, is the most trustful sources.
Yeah.
So these are the reasons that I avoid to go outside and eat at the restaurants.
I did
But
work.
again, like, these are my friends and, like, colleagues, and I don't want to
Yeah.
offend anyone here, but this is the truth that we need to talk, I think.
No, absolutely. And I worked at a restaurant in New York City as an intern briefly, and I got to go with the chef to the farmer's market, and he would go every week. And there were ingredients that he would choose, and then there were different farms at those farmers markets that he would call directly to get produce from. But it is hard to build a menu consistently around farm fresh produce because you might not be able to get it every week. And people want to be able to come back to a restaurant consistently and get the same dish. So it's hard to be able to execute that. And when you're running a restaurant, it's hard to retrain a team on creating new recipes every day because you aren't necessarily getting the same produce every day. So I completely understand where restaurants are coming from and trying to create consistency, but there is a balance between the consistency of McDonald's and Olive Garden versus the consistency of these small, more unique bistros, right?
That's definitely correct. And I respect the people who is out there and trying to do honest and clean job and try to serve people good food. I honor them and I respect them, but there are also people and the corporates that are doing this. Like, basically, they don't care about your health or your well-being. It's only matters is the financials.
Yeah, there's some great restaurants out there now that are really trying to change the game. They're kind of more fast casuals. Like I love Dig in New York, and they have a few locations across the city, and they're fast casual, but they own farms and they're growing a lot of their own produce that they're bringing into their restaurants or their fast casual cafes, and they're changing certain items on the menu every month to reflect what's available at their farms in upstate New York. Like they're really changing the game. Sweet Green is trying to do that as well in the salad community. Chopped is trying to do that as well. So there are
There's a
some.
place called Antico in Los Angeles. I used to work there too, and I think they are doing really great job over there as well. Like only farmers market ingredients and like good quality of olive oil, good quality like grass fed meat and wild caught salmon. I mean, definitely there are people who's like pushing the limits, and even like they're I think giving away from their income as well. Like if they follow the other side, maybe they will make like more money or they will get the ingredients like cheaper prices, but they just follow the right thing and trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, I completely understand. I have no problem walking into Erewhon and picking up something to eat when I want a hot meal or a salad, because I can see everything that they use to prepare that. And usually they did use olive oil or ghee or, an organic or grass finished butter. I think we're all willing to pay the price for quality
Yeah,
food, from start to finish. And
definitely.
so I'm hoping that's a shift that's going to be happening in the culinary world over time.
Hopefully it will be available for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing that you mentioned that I want to learn more about is Anatolian cuisine. And you mentioned to me in previous conversations just that there's ancient wisdom in that type of cuisine, just that type of thought and understanding of that traditional food. Can you tell me more about Anatolian food?
Absolutely. Honestly, my pleasure talking here about Anatolia. It's like where I'm from, and I'm very proud of the region. So Anatolia is a region in Turkey, basically, and it's like very, very old. I think the first civilization was found right now in Göbekli Tepe, Urfa, is like 9500 before Christ. The archaeologists find the civilizations science. So it's very old. It's the first nomads was start to live in one place and stop moving around. And why why it's Anatolia and Mesopotamia? Because of the climate and the soil is so good for suitable for agriculture. So when the soil is so suitable, you use it. How you use it, you start to live at that area where it's like, when you get a lot, basically they were living off of the land. So this is the place might be, we don't know, but might be they find the, fire and everything. But I'm just talking hypothetically right now. So there's because of the climate and the soil, there is like very wide profile of ingredients that Anatolia serves to world. I think it's every chef's dream. Uh, there is like lots of innovative and primitive cooking techniques. For example, cooking like 20-meter or 50-meter under the soil, having a deep hole and like just having a fire underneath. I see anywhere world like or uh, stuff all your meat and the vegetables in one big clay pot and close it and put it under the fire. And when it comes on the table, you just crack that clay pot middle of the table and just like it's a feast. So this is like very
That's
ancient
amazing.
techniques. I
Those
know it's
both techniques are like my dream to learn to prepare, especially food cooked under the ground. Like it's my dream to own large enough land where I can cook under the ground anytime I want and no one can come around being like, what are you doing with that fire? That's
exactly what are you doing? Yeah. It's just amazing. And as I said, very rich. And Anatolian people are mostly, people who's working on the soil and living off of the land. So there's not huge incomes that these people have. But basically, what is this? In Italy, they call it like cucina poverta, which is like poor people's cuisine. It's like you get the like cheapest cut of the animal, or sometimes you don't use any animal produce, but whatever you have on your land, you basically bring all together and put some spices on it and cook it and serve it. But I think what's make it the most delicious about it is the soil and the sun and the water. These three elements are really bursting out there, I will say.
That's amazing. Do you guys use a lot of organ meats in your cooking? Because you're using kind of the scrap meats, which are really the most health supportive.
Definitely. We use a lot offal, I will say, like those organs, like liver. We definitely don't waste any part of the animal. We use everything until the head to toe. Definitely, we are using all of it.
You're so lucky that you got to grow up with that type of food, that type of cuisine, and
Absolutely.
like just that knowledge. So do you know how to cook under the ground like that confidently?
Honestly, I didn't experience it, but I
Yeah.
saw people like my grandparents that like digging like 20 meter down the soil and having a fire, then put it the animal, then cover it with the soil, and we come back maybe like after 10, 12 hours. After we come and they dig again and take out all the not just meat, like there's also like vegetables and stuff that cooking with the meat, and like digging back and like taking out and putting on the plate and like having feast. I'm
And
not the expert of it, but
yeah.
I experience it.
And what about the clay pot?
So we call it testi kebabı, clay pot kebab. Basically, you fill it up, the big clay pot, with like uh, vegetables, meat. Then you put a little bit like liquid inside. You close it, and you can put it in the fire. Again, you can dig the floor and put it under the ground. Then after it took some time, but basically the steam, it doesn't go anywhere. So everything is steams, it's staying inside. So all the flavors getting richer and richer by the end of 4 or 5 hours. So after that, you just get that clay and crack it on the table. It's also like a gastronomical show, I would say. And yeah, it's very festive, and like all you want is just first when you crack it, the smell of the dish is hit your face. Then after that, all you can think is like, I just want to eat this.
That's amazing. I want to experience that. So thank you for sharing that. It's
Of course, I mean, there are many techniques that we can talk here, like, I don't know, whole day series. Like, if anyone is interested with kind of learn about the Anatolian cooking techniques, I can recommend a TV show which is on Netflix on Chef's Table. There's an episode with a Turkish chef, Musa Dağdelen.
Okay.
So basically, as a restaurant also in Istanbul, he came to my college also, my culinary school, and give a couple, classes about Anatolia and Anatolian cooking techniques. If you guys want to watch and learn about it, it's on Netflix.
Are there any Anatolian cookbooks that you have at home? Or where do you kind of go for your Turkish recipes?
For my Turkish recipes, honestly, I don't like to follow a recipe. That's, I think it's not I wouldn't say my thing, but that's how I enjoy cooking. That's the Anatolian vision. This is like a little deeper conversation, I think, but I can say that I'm not following any recipe, but learning techniques and being from that side of the world I feel like it's in my system already. I just need to discover and put them there.
I understand.
So whenever I read something or I saw something, I'm like, I know this already. Like I didn't maybe did it before. Like I didn't experience it like physically. But it's coming as an intuition. Like I know this and I can make this, and I make like my own tweaks on it and have my own version.
Is there anything that you're really into cooking for yourself right now?
I couldn't hear the question.
Oh, that's all right. Is there anything that you're really into cooking for yourself right now?
Yes, I mean, mostly my diet is like plant-based. Uh, when I sometimes I'm from Turkey, right? Our big part of the diet is like meat, and I grow up with that kind of dietary system until I think I was like 26 that I was following it. After I come here, I start to consume less and less, and one day I decided to go vegetarian fully. I did it for a while, but I start to crave meat and stuff. And right now, whenever I crave it, I just want to be respectful to my body and find a good source of meat, which is, all of us know, I think grass-fed or wild-caught fishes. I think very important. But mostly, I like ethnic flavors and ethnic cuisines. Doesn't have to be just Middle Eastern, like Asian or Moroccan. I like ethnic flavor, and I'm by myself or with my girlfriend. Like basically, we're cooking these ethnic flavors for ourselves.
So what do you have on the menu that you're planning on cooking for yourself in the next few days? Anything in particular?
Basically, whatever I have in my fridge or whatever I found on the farmer's market. I'm not like planning. I'm gonna cook. Let's say I don't know lasagna for myself. I'm not that kind of person. I just find the freshest and the nicest ingredients and come up with something. But
Got it.
basically, mostly I like stews. I would say like with the legumes, lots of legumes and lots of vegetables.
Nice. It is soup season. So it's interesting. I don't know if you have this experience, but because I cook so much for other people, that I forget that I haven't consumed it, because the first part of digestion starts when we prepare the food. And so it's weird being a chef when you're making soups every day for other people, because a part of you feels like, oh, I've had soup the past few days, but you actually never got to take the time to consume it because
Never had it, right? Yeah.
so I have that weird thing that happens to me, and it happens to me with certain vegetables too. I'll feel like, oh my God, I've been eating so much chard recently and I haven't had any chard. I've just been making chard for every single one of my clients.
I'm just working with char, but I'm keep forgetting to eat it, right? I know
Yeah.
that feeling very well, yes.
Okay, so I'm not alone. It's a weird thing, and
Not alone.
it must be really interesting for mothers preparing food for their children, especially ones that are following a more holistic cuisine, and constantly preparing different meals for their children according to what they need to grow, and then also taking the time to make something for yourself that's nourishing. It's an interesting mental game that you end up playing with yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything that you are really loving, or really into learning right now about food and water and wellness, that you've been really diving into?
I've been learning about food since my culinary school journey started, and it's like an endless world. I think there will be no stopping about learning. And right now, since I step into also holistic aspect of food, definitely learning every day something new. With water, our bodies like almost more than 75, I feel like 88% of our bodies is like water. So basically what you drink it becomes you. And how water is important, how this pH differences are important for your digestion or for your cooking or cleaning the pesticide from your food. There's lots of things into, but one thing right now I'm really into and like looking forward to get into more deeper levels is like sound, music and sound healing.
Mhm.
It's definitely, I'm believing in healing power of food, definitely. And I think sound and music has the same thing. And music is, I think, another language. And I'm really into express myself with this new language and show people its own healing aspects.
Yeah, I definitely notice a difference on how I execute food for myself and for my clients, depending on whether I have music playing or not, and then what type of music. And so there is certain music that I will constantly turn to while I'm cooking for a client to help kind of calm my nervous system. So then my experience cooking for them is so much smoother and calm. It really, I physically, mentally, and emotionally shift because of the vibration of the sound.
Definitely. I mean, it's really important. If you're cooking, let's say you're mad at something and you're cooking with it,
Oh, yeah.
and that food is not that, it's not transmitting it's directly transmitting your energy to the other side. So I believe that, like, whatever energy that you are cooked with, it's going to be transmitted to your clients. So always trying to ground myself, before cooking or during cooking. If something happened, I just stop cooking, getting it back to myself, maybe like 10 minutes meditation and going back to kitchen again. Like, we are burning lots of sages, honestly, in the kitchen, trying to make a sacred place, because I think it's really important. My girlfriend, she's practicing Reiki, and when everything is finished and everything is good, she's doing, like, a little bit of Reiki session to clean any, like, uh, bad energy or heavy feeling from the food, and like put the intention of just be a medicine for that person.
Yeah, we're living in such a wonderful time that people are starting to think differently about the food that they consume and just being more thoughtful before they consume it. It's really a neat time that we're living in, and there's so much for us to all learn.
Absolutely. I think I'm so excited that we are living in this specific this timeline, and lots of things are changing and shifting in a good way. Looks like things are going worse, but I don't believe that. I think everything is going really, really, really good. But this is just the beginning. So, and we are witnessing it and we are part of it. I think it's make it really precious, this lifetime experience.
Well, I'm so grateful to have met you and for Abby O'Neill to have connected us.
Thank you, Abby. Definitely.
Yes, I adore Abby. Where can more people learn about you or reach out to you in LA for meal prep or personal chef work?
Right now, I'm most active on my Instagram page,
Mhm.
uh, working on a new concept. And with this new concept, we are building our own website also. Very soon time, I will share this on my Instagram page as well. But right now, I'm on Instagram, the most active.
Okay, and what's your Instagram handle?
Erdem Cooks.
All right, perfect. And is there a website that people should plan to check in a few weeks or a few months?
Not right now. I mean, we got the domain, but I don't want to share it right now.
No
But in a
problem.
couple of weeks or months, definitely on my Instagram page, I will publish it.
And then can you leave our listeners with maybe one healthy tip that they can consider adding into their life to improve their well-being?
Absolutely. I mean, diet and water, we talk about it, it's really important. But I think knowing yourself and learning about yourself is very important. I think everybody should find their authentic self, basically, and become the best version of yourself every day and honor your higher self. And when you do those things, like, your world is not the same anymore. It's definitely change in a good way, and you will feel everything. Living on 5D, like high vibrational, you're gonna experience it with finding your authentic self.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. And I look forward to hopefully cooking or eating with you sometime soon.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure for me. And thank you for having me on your podcast. And I hope finally at one point we cook together and eat together.
I know, I think so, since we both have a passion for
Mhm.
healing food and good food and, you know, thoughtful, conscious, you know, preparation. It would be fun. There's always something you can learn from another person. So, and especially with your background, and just your upbringing with being at the crossroads of the world and all the different foods and spices and vegetables and meats. I feel like there's much to learn from you and your culinary experiences.
Thank you very much. I would like to share and I would like to also learn from you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, thank you so much, and looking forward to connecting again soon.
Likewise.